Well, for more, let's cross to Thomas Nicolon. Thomas, we heard there Keiko Fujimori speaking late Sunday. This was when she had a much wider lead. What's the latest?
Votes are still being counted by the Electoral Commission in Peru. Keiko Fujimori is still ahead for now, but her lead is clearly narrowing. It has been narrowing for the past few hours. It's very hard to know, to predict what things are going to look like when all the votes are counted, even though about 94% of the votes have been counted already. The margin is so thin that things could still go either way. And the vote that must still be counted are votes from rural areas and from the Amazon, and these areas tend to favor Pedro Castillo, so things could possibly go that way in the next few hours. But now there are also the votes from Peruvians overseas, and these votes tend to favor Keiko Fujimori. The situation is really hard to read, and it's hard to know what things are going to look like in a few hours. The Electoral Commission is updating the vote counting on their website every 30 minutes.
Every 30 minutes, Thomas. Keiko Fujimori, who managed to get into the second round last month. She was second, but only with less than 14% of the vote. And she's a polarizing figure. It's both candidates, you might say, are polarizing.
Both candidates are polarizing, and remember that in the first round, in the polls before the first round, no candidates had more than 10%. And that's what's happening in this election. Peruvians didn't know who to vote for because the personalities of every candidate did not convince a majority of the population. And it's the same thing right now. Peruvians had to make a decision, a choice that they did not want to make between Keiko Fujimori and Pedro Castillo. Pedro Castillo's supporters say that Keiko Fujimori is corrupt, that she belongs to a political system that does not work. Remember that Peru is in a deep political crisis. Over the past 5 years, there have been 5 different presidents, 3 different presidents in just a few days back in November. And most presidents have been impeached because of corruption. And Keiko Fujimori is being sued herself, and charges will be dropped if she wins this election. But that's why she's. Some people like her, and some think that she belongs to a system that doesn't work anymore. Now, Pedro Castillo is very attractive to poor people because he says he wants to redistribute the wealth of the country better. But his political enemies say that he's a communist and that he'll destroy. That's what they say. He'll destroy Peru like Maduro destroyed Venezuela. That's what Keiko Fujimori's supporters say. So the country is deeply divided, and this gap is not only political, it's also a class battle because most poor people tend to favor Pedro Castillo, and Fujimori supporters live in wealthier areas in big cities. So it's a clash of classes and not only a political battle here, and that's why things keep getting tenser and tenser.
Tenser and tenser, Thomas. One final question for you. We've seen recently in Chile there's been a constituent assembly that's been formed. One of Castillo's big pledges is to rewrite the constitution written by Fujimori's dad. How do Peruvians feel about that?
Then again, Peruvians are divided on this issue. The problem with the Constitution is that a lot of people feel that the Constitution does not represent the majority, all the population. A lot of people feel like the Constitution favors wealthier people and big businesses, and that's why poor people want to be more included. Pedro Castillo wants to change the Constitution. Now, it might be appealing to a lot of people, but his political enemies say that it's a risk. It's a risk to destabilize this country, and that's why people are so divided about this constitution. It's clearly not the campaign argument that was the strongest for Pedro Castillo, because what people really look forward to, at least people from poor areas, is the redistribution of wealth. And this constitution rewriting is basically was a campaign argument, but it's hard to know if he will be indeed able to carry out this promise.